So let's move on to something else. Now, I'm still going to be using just sine waves for this, but we're going to make something that's a little bit more kind of rich and full frequency. So again, I'm using the same layout, the sort of default arrangement of the oscillators. And I'm just going to start off by getting oscillator B involved. So at the moment we've just got a sine wave, just a sub. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to bring up the volume of that oscillator B, but a bit more this time because I want to actually make a bit more of a big deal out of the mid-range stuff. So I'm putting that up to minus 15 decibels, but I'm also going to put the coarse tuning up to 2, so that we've got a more exaggerated version of what we had before. Now, this time I'm actually going to get the envelopes involved a little bit. So I want to do something with the envelope on B so it adds a little bit of movement in there. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to start off just by pulling down the sustain. So we've got this kind of like sort of transient almost from oscillator B when I press a note. Now, the next thing, I kind of don't want it to just like hit right at the start, because we can achieve a similar sort of effect with the pitch envelope, which we're probably going to use a bit anyway. So I'm just going to drag this top one over a bit. Okay, so we've got something a little bit more kind of interesting going on now. So now we're going to start getting oscillators C and D involved. And because of the way that the FM routing is set up, they're going to be kind of sort of controlled by the same envelope, because they're only going to pass through B when B is actually playing itself. So B obviously stops when it hits this point, and the sustain is 0. So I don't need to worry so much about the envelope on the one above. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to pull that up. We'll tweak the level as we kind of get it in place, but the main thing is I want to put the coarse tuning up to 3, and I'm going to mess around. I'm going to put the fine tuning most of the way up as well, but again I'm just going to detune it ever so slightly. So let's hear how that sounds. Okay, cool. So we're starting to get some more interesting kind of movement going on there, and we've got some more high frequency stuff going on, as you can see in the spectrum. You can see there's a bit more going on there. It's still kind of sounding a little bit kind of dull and muted though, so like before, and this is a really useful trick for a lot of sounds in operator, I'm going to get that white noise oscillator on the go, and then use the level just to mix it in to the right sort of point. Okay, so that just gives it that bit of high frequency content that it was kind of missing before, because the lower oscillators didn't have any harmonics up there. So it just kind of fills in that gap, and because it's actually working through FM rather than a layer, it's kind of intermingling with the other oscillators as it works its way down towards A. But as you can see, we've still got a really nice and clear kind of subnote. But the nice thing about this extra bit of movement here with the envelope in B is that we get a kind of slightly delayed sub action. It's still there at the start, but it just kind of drops into it almost. Yeah, nice. Now, the next thing I'm going to look at again is the filter, because it's another integral part of shaping the sound. But I mean, to start off with, I'm not actually going to use it with, you know, actually as a filter kind of thing. I'm just going to use the overdrive. So let's try MS2 this time. I'm just going to boost it a bit. So we're getting a nice kind of driven sound straight out of operator there. Now, again, I think the pitch envelope would help, just to give it a bit of extra attack. Yeah, that kind of works, but again, it's a little bit too slow. So let's try 200, because it sounds a little bit nicer with that slower pitch movement, but we just don't want it to be that slow. And I think I'm also going to set the peak value here maybe up another octave. So it's in semitones. So at the moment it's 12, which is 1 octave. I'm going to go up to 24, which is 2 octaves. We can really hear that if I elongate the decay. Nice. And then we've got some quite nice movement there. Now, if this was something that you wanted to be playing sort of live, as it were, or you didn't want to worry about clashing notes, it's worth just going down to this bottom right segment, the global settings, and just setting the voices down to 1 so you get a mono instrument. So there we managed to get quite a satisfying, quite full sound, and we're still only really using sine waves and a bit of white noise, so you can get quite a lot out of not very much in Operator, which is really one of its major strengths.